I don't know what's next, probably to play at the Euros, to score at the Euros and try and win something with the team, and I feel like we've got the perfect team to do it.
Jack Grealish, he was good again, wasn't he?
Brilliant, mate. All those
watching
people
him play.
doubting him, coming back from injury, should he select him? We hear the things about Gareth not being probably one of his favourite players, but for me, he showed again, when he's still not 100% fit, why he's a definite starter. He's absolutely superb. When you talk about Gazza and how good he was, right, as a footballer, and I'm not trying to compare him, but I am in a way.
You are.
Yeah, but he is our kind of this... When you look at the players now, he is the modern-day Gazza, isn't he?
Well,
That's what he is, when he's got the ball at his feet, the dribbling, hard to get the ball off him, makes opposition make tackles on him that get fouls. So he's a definite starter, Ed.
When you go back to Italia 90 and Euro 96, Gazza was very much the player that set England apart from a lot of the rest. So, yeah, we had some very good players. Lineker was a great goal scorer in 1990, Shearer in 96. So there was some good players around him, I get that. But he was that something else that really elevated England beyond the norm. Couldn't take us all the way, and there might have been, reasons in Gazza's lifestyle or the way he trained or whatever that meant that he couldn't get that extra touch on for that golden goal against Germany in 96. It's all history now. But when we're looking at this going forward, I understand the comparisons because of the way they play. But Jack Grealish is, first of all, he's got to add goals to his England game. Yeah. He's also got to do it at least one major tournament, because Gazza certainly shone at two major tournaments for England. So I do get the comparison though, because it is the way he plays, and winning free kicks and penalties.
He's always in the game, Ed.
Yeah,
he's always in the game, and I think that is so vital when you're playing for your country at the highest level, especially in tournaments. If he delivers, so far every time I've seen him in an England shirt, he has been a good part of the game. You know what I mean? He makes things happen. And that is so important, but you have a player that has that energy. I've joked about him in the past. When he has the ball at his feet, he runs faster with the ball at his feet than he does without the ball. So it's glued to his feet, and the defenders panic and bring him down. He's strong on the ball. And he went down easy, didn't he?
It's a classic Jack Grealish penalty, isn't it?
Yes, but he's going to create opportunities like that.
And the thing is, it's given as a penalty. VAR will not overturn that. That is going to be a
Kane
penalty.
will want him to start.
Yep.
Because Kane will be on penalties and he'll be saying, give Jack Grealish the ball, he'll get me a penalty.
And Kane won't be giving it to Henderson. He'll be taking that penalty and smashing it in. But listen, we're both agreed on Jack Grealish, and I'm so grateful and thankful that he is fit, and it looks like he's going to be a major part of this England Euros. But the question is he a certain starter? Because we know there are a number of players for those positions. Just take a listen to this before you answer the question, any of you. 08717 223344. But take a listen to this. Grealish getting a lot of praise since yesterday's win. Stuart Pearce, though, former England World Cup semi-finalist, Euro semi-finalist.
Good mates with Gareth Southgate.
He was alongside Mark Saggers during the game, and those two were not quite as impressed.
And what about Jack Grealish? Does he look good enough to do that something extra special? I think he slows it down a little bit if he plays like he did today.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that within him. At this moment in time, I don't think he's yet discovered the real zip that he had early season. I still think he's got a bit to go, and for me, he wouldn't be a starter next week on what I've seen over a couple of games.
Yeah,
I'm quite shocked. When I heard it yesterday, I was quite shocked to hear that, and I was out loud disagreeing with the radio, I have to say. But it's all about opinions. That's why we want yours as well. For me, it's got to be him and Foden starting. I've got this fear that
Mount?
Gareth, yeah, of course, yeah, all three.
Oh.
Mount's in the middle behind Kane. But and I know there's players you're leaving out, but you have to leave certain players out. You can't play all 26 players. But I've got this feeling Southgate will be playing Raheem Sterling one side, Rashford the other. And as much as I like those two players, I would rather see, and I think we should be starting, Foden and Grealish either side of Mason Mount. I don't think Grealish should be in the 10 either. Because I think...
Do you think he'd want an out-and-out wide man, though? I know he's got his wing-backs if he goes with that. But do you feel as though the reason he won't play all three is he'll want one of Sancho, Sterling and Rashford in?
Because do you think all three will get in the way of each other then? If there's not an out-and-out wide man there, is that the thinking?
That might be his thinking.
Yeah.
I think if you speak to most football fans or most people in this office, they'll all say they want Foden, Mount, and Grealish to play, and Bellingham. I think you speak to most people in here, and there's probably many fans out there who would want that as well. But we're not picking this side. Sometimes you have to look at it from a manager's point of view and think, yeah, I've got so much talent in those positions, but for the best of the team, is it best to play a wide man? Is it best to play a Sterling or a Sancho or a Rashford and two of those?
It's obviously a difficult one, but I'm not going to sit here and try to get the guessing game right with regards to what Gareth Southgate's thinking. I'm not interested in that. What I want to see is an attacking England side. We're not great defensively. In a Barry Fry mode, we've got to score more goals than the opposition to win games. It sounds obvious, but I think that means we will concede goals. Therefore, we're going to have to score a lot of goals. So you need your really good attacking players out there. And people can't tell me that Foden, Grealish and Mount have no defensive responsibilities whatsoever. Of course they do.
Well, Mount does. That's why he's been so good. That's why he's been so reliable. That's why he's the one who's a definite. Right? Let's be straight about it.
I hope so, yeah.
Out of the three, he's the one in Gareth's mind that's a definite.
Yeah. But I do have this fear, and as I do love Rashford, obviously, and I've been a big fan of Sterling, but I don't think either of them are in such form where you're saying, yeah, they're nailed on starters. Whereas, and I accept Grealish has been out, but every time he's on the pitch, he looks like something's going to happen, doesn't he? Foden, it cannot be ignored. You can't leave Phil Foden out, surely. And Mason Mount he's like almost a complete player, isn't he? He's got everything. So those three, I mean, I'm getting excited thinking about it, but that's how I feel about it. I don't think Gareth Southgate feels that way. As we discussed in the first hour, I think he's overly cautious. And I sense that it's going to be disappointing next weekend when we see the starting lineup and we don't see that trio behind Kane of Foden, Grealish and Mount.
The only reason it'll be disappointing and it'll be talked about is if we go into the game and it's 0-0.
Yeah.
And they don't play. So it creates, straight away, it creates a negative energy and a negative vibe around the team. If he goes in with a defensive lineup and it ends up being 0-0. And it's the same problems we struggle to break down teams that are not quite as good.
Correct, yeah. And also, we come up against a team like Croatia, as we did in the World Cup 3 years ago, come up against a team that's maybe slightly better than us or on a level with us if we get it right, possibly, and we lose the game. If just say we lose 1-0. Now, actually, in the context of the group and how the round of 16 and the quarterfinals work, it might not be a bad thing to finish second in the group. However, let's just bear this in mind, and I think we all need to give ourselves a slap around the chops because people are talking about how far England can go and home advantage and all this stuff. Forget it. We're in a very difficult group, not just because of Croatia. Czech Republic beat us in qualifying as well. Scotland turn into superstars. They turn into a team of Messis and Ronaldos when they're playing against England. And you all know that's going to happen. And we're going to talk about Scotland in the last hour. They will 100% raise their game. If they all had the same attitude as they have against England in every qualifier, they'd qualify for every tournament, Scotland. But whether rightly or wrongly, whether it's professional or not, they will 100% raise their game for England. And it would not surprise me if they get something from that game. And it's worrying. I have to say it's worrying. The group picture is not as comfortable as England fans might be thinking. I'm deeply concerned about it, I've got to say. I'm only confident if he picks a team with Grealish, Foden and Mount. Honestly, are you not concerned?
I just with you because I think a lot of, let's say we're not managers, we're just football fans, but a lot of football fans out there, Ed, will be thinking exactly the same as we're thinking. They want all those sort of players to play. And they want England to back themselves, to just go out, back his young players to deliver through pure footballing ability, trying to organise a defence and keep it tight with two defensive midfielders and four at the back. Whatever it may be, it's going to just put it straight away negative spin on it. If he goes out there and we start off the tournament, and this is a moment, isn't it? Go out there, back yourself. You go out, you win the game 3-0 the first game. Can you imagine the buzz? Can you imagine the buzz? And he's gone out there with Grealish, Foden and Mount and Bellingham and Kane you'd be going, wow, we don't matter about what defence we've got. Look at the attacking players. But will it be that way?
No, that's the worry, isn't it? If you go out there attacking and play younger players who are lively, energetic, have shown they can do it, and they really go for it. And if you...
But more liable to a mistake. And this is why you might just go for the old
That's so cautious, isn't it? If you die trying, I haven't got a problem with that. If England don't do anything in the tournament, but he's given those players the chance to shine, then I won't be happy, but at least he can say, well, listen, these players had their chance. When it comes to Jack Grealish, is he a certain starter for England in your mind? And if not, why not? 08717 722 3344. It's Drive on talkSPORT in association with Paddy Power. Let's get to your calls. Is Jack Grealish a certain starter? And if not, why not? Tom is a Chesterfield fan. What's a game for them at the weekend? Chesterfield, and they lost as well. How are you doing, Tom?
Oh, yeah, great.
It was a brilliant
Welcome
game.
to the show, mate. I mean...
You were winning.
Well... It's only taken me 48 hours to try and forget about it.
Sorry. I'm going to mention it again in the Head's Gone a little bit later on, so 6:30.
Oh, thanks. Well, I won't be listening to that.
I'll get over it. What's your point on Grealish?
Oh,
the former Notts County player, Jack Grealish.
Right, okay. I don't usually talk. I don't usually ring up about England. I'll go to the pub, I'll watch the matches and get involved, and great, but I'm definitely sort of club before country. So I don't have a massive opinion normally on England selection, but I've been watched the last two games, and I don't know whether it was just I don't know why, but I also watched that. I don't know, it's just coincidence. I watched the Gascoigne documentary on Sky last night.
Okay,
and I just sat there and I thought, why is this even a debate whether Grealish should play or not? Because he's not as good as Gascoigne, but he's the best player in that role we've had since Gascoigne. And it would be like, today's equivalent, it would be like having Gascoigne and not playing him. And that's how ridiculous it actually sounds. Because I watched Grealish really closely, and it just sort of dawned on me that I've been watching England for God knows 20 years since Gascoigne. And what we do have players that pass the ball forward and make, obviously we do, because we won't score any goals, and make defence splitting passes and blah, blah, blah. But they do get picked off. And we do tend to struggle against teams that sit back, defend tight. But this kid, he just does things differently. He moves in areas that no other player moves.
He finds a gap, doesn't he, and gets through it. He finds a gap, gets through it, yeah.
And he makes things happen. And let me tell you, I don't care whether you're France, Portugal, we have this group of death we're going to face, and if we get through and blah, blah, blah. I don't care what you say, right? All these top coaches in Europe will not want to have that player running at their defenders for 90 minutes because it's unpredictable. You know, he's so hard to actually defend against and set up against. And we need that. He is completely different to anything else we've got. And the fact, I agree with you, Adrian, I don't think he's going to get picked. I actually think we are going to come Sunday, 2:00 or whatever, the team sheet's going to come in. I think he's going to play Sterling and Rashford. And I'll just be like, Sterling has been obviously a very, very good player for England, but he's way out of nick. He's not in form. And Rashford, wow. I mean, come on.
What I would say, Tom, is if he does pick those players and they do the business and beat Croatia, I'll be literally the first to hold my hands up and say, I didn't want him to pick that team, but Gareth went with that team and he's got it right. The other thing you got to remember is that Paul Gascoigne wasn't always a certain starter. Some managers had difficulty with Paul Gascoigne.
Well, same as Hoddle wasn't.
Hoddle was one of them. Graham Taylor also. But let's remember as well that those managers who did trust him were the most successful ones. Bobby Robson.
No, but what I'm saying is Hoddle as a player as well wasn't always first choice, and he had that little bit of X factor. He did something. You know what I mean? He picked other players instead who didn't have that skill and that ability on the ball and that defence splitting pass.
Absolutely, but they weren't successful without him, and they weren't successful without Gazza. They had more joy with a Gazza in the side, and hopefully Gareth Southgate will learn from that. That's my hope, that he looks back on those situations and thinks, If we're going to do something special, we're going to need Jack Grealish in the team. He has to think like that.
But what he's saying there, he had a good point there when he talked about opposition defences and managers will be thinking about Grealish. What they'll be saying to him, don't let him get near the box. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're going to make a foul, make sure it's outside the box. Because once he starts going in there, like yesterday, he finds the smallest gap and he has got the skill of going down. He always gets touched, but he's brilliant at going down.
And you know what? If it is true that they get to him before he gets into the box, it's a free kick outside the box, and there's James Ward-Prowse to take.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No. Oh, Trippier? No, he won't be starting either.
Dave's a Villa fan. What do you want to say, Dave? You're on talkSPORT.
Great show, gents. Great show as normal.
Thank you.
Two things. First thing, I don't even think Grealish played that well the last two games compared to what he can do. He can finish as well. I mean, Grealish is a fantastic player, and I think you've only seen 60% of his actual, overall capacity as a player in the last two games. I don't even think he's played that well. So that's how good he is. Unfortunately, I think Gareth Southgate's a lovely guy, real nice person. I hope he does well. He's a defender, he's defensive-minded, and he'll go back to what he knows best. And we'll play against France and Spain. We'll go 5 at the back. We'll go 3 with the 2 wing-backs, 2 defensive players. He'll play counter-attacking football with 2 quick lads, like you said, Sterling or Rashford, with Kane up front. And that's my biggest worry, because if you watch the top clubs play, they defend from up front. Or you watch Barcelona, they never let people get the ball out. So they used to defend from up front. So it didn't matter who was defending. So if we're saying our weakness is defending, defend from up front. Go and squeeze them. Go and put the press on. And Villa do that, and Grealish can do that. He's not a lazy player. People think he's lazy. He's not lazy at all. So
it's the style, isn't it? It's a languid style, but you're right, it isn't lazy. When you think about the energy he puts in, the amount he gets kicked, there's got to be a lot of energy going into every 90 minutes for Jack Grealish. I make Dave right. It feels like the whole of the England support base, the fan base,
want Grealish to play. Yeah.
So if he doesn't play him and flops at this Euros, Southgate's got nowhere to go. The whole country's telling him, you've got to play Grealish, you've got to play Foden. He's got to go with it, surely, hasn't he? This is talkSPORT.